back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast, where we share games. I'm your host, Zach.
And I'm your host, Tyler. Finally, we are back. If you didn't know, we're in Austin, and we were snowed in for just about a week.
The ice apocalypse of 2021.
Mm-hmm. The snowpocalypse, as some others are calling it. We were out of power, and just about everything else. Just resources in general.
Yeah.
And therefore couldn't play many video games. Luckily, I stocked up and got to play some handheld games, watch a couple movies, but the game we're talking about today was out of commission for a little while. So that's why we're late this week. We've been late for many other reasons. This week, it is a natural disaster that kept us from talking to you sweet people.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
Correct. We got a beer to share. This is the Mage from Anchorage. This is an IPA, as pretty much all Anchorage beers are. IPAs are sours. I think IPA is certainly what they're most well known for, sours being secondary. This is an IPA brewed with, let's double check here, Moteca and Vic's Secret hops.
This
and
is
lime zest.
Very creamy. And not like, when you think creamy like a milkshake IPA, not like that where it's thick. I just mean like it's creamy, that velvety mouthfeel that you get.
Definitely.
I like that.
I like the lime, and certainly on the nose. I get it a little less. Yeah, I think it's more on the nose, the lime is.
Well, I'm getting it the whole way. Like the beginning, the middle, and especially that aftertaste. That aftertaste is just lime.
Yeah.
Which,
the aftertaste for sure.
If you like lime, there you go. Actually, it lingers a while. That's really impressive. I
like it quite a bit.
Wasn't expecting.
I
to
never
like it
had
this
lime
much.
in an IPA before.
Yeah, it seems like it go well together. That acidity, although this isn't acidic. I guess acidity is the wrong term.
Yeah, but usually you're getting
I
like
guess
those
just that lime
orange
flavor.
flavors.
Yeah, the orange or that grapefruit.
Yeah,
yeah.
I like grapefruit. For sure.
Dude, so much.
So that is the Mage from Anchorage. This week we don't have it on display here, for we are playing it on the Epic Games Store. We're playing Control. At long last. I've been waiting on this for a while. I missed it, actually, in 2019. Completely missed it. Didn't know about it until the awards season. I don't know how that happened.
It was very, it was pretty present across the board.
I was like, what is this? Did this come out yesterday? Unfortunately.
Is this a Control?
It didn't really do it for me.
And you were looking forward to it, which is unfortunate.
Yes. I really like surrealism, that sort of David Lynch sort of style, which, I've talked about a lot before on the cast, I think.
It's that idea of like ordinary things and objects and behaviors intersecting with something so beyond the ordinary, the best example, most people will bring up is Twin Peaks, just how absolutely ordinary everything that Cooper says. Everything he says is extremely, this is an incredible cup of coffee. You're a wonderful person. Just this down-to-earth guy intersecting with this, I'm going to throw rocks this way in order to determine who killed this girl. Like, he's just going to throw rocks, and they're going to somehow tell him what happened. I love it.
Absolutely bizarre. And what you just said, that when the ordinary meets up with something far beyond that, they establish that absolutely immediately in the game. The first piece of paper you pick up, and you're picking up notes everywhere. Audio logs, video logs, or just notes, be it an official document from the organization, like an email to employees, or a book club. There's a book club there. You can find all the correspondence for the book club. The first one you find talks about archetypes. And it says, don't bring anything in the building. I'm butchering it a little, but don't bring anything in the building that represents a cultural archetype, like ketchup bottles, hotel keychains, and it gives a couple other examples. Because those things, the things that have created this sort of monolith in the pop culture collective conscious.
Yeah, the collective conscious identifies it and recognizes it as this extremely everyday, simple, ordinary thing. A refrigerator, a television set, all of these things. It's very interesting.
Yes. Unfortunately, I think all of its awesome ideas, really awesome ideas, are how do I put it?
Undermined?
They clash. They're undermined. That's the word I was looking for. That's the word I've been using. They are continuously undermined by the game itself. And I'd like you to really take it away with the game discussion.
Sure. So the first thing that stood out to me, that's not true. This is the first thing after I finished playing. When I sat down to really reflect on my experience, that stood out to me was how many games as a service mechanics and ideas are present in this game. Kind of random loot drops, and you have this idea of,
many currencies.
Many currencies. There's missions will just randomly appear, and it's just, go shoot these guys in this place.
And at really inopportune times. Like, it's not just, a little notification that you have a new mission. It's a full banner on the top third of the screen, and then it gives you the prompt to like activate that mission. And if for some reason you accidentally press that button, maybe like Zach, he plays with this weird claw grip.
I do.
And presses weird buttons and can't use the DualSense.
And kicks your butt in Smash by doing so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm justified in my claw grip.
Yeah, it's very odd. But he does kick my butt in Smash. Anyway, if for some reason you accidentally press this, so it's there for like 15 seconds or so, and then it shrinks to the left of your screen, and God forbid there be multiple objectives in that mission, because it's just a well of objectives on the left side of the screen, like I'm playing an MMO.
It's very odd. I didn't like it. I don't think it integrated well with the game itself. I definitely, like you said, undermined some of the better ideas, because the whole progression system being random loot drops made all the loot feel really not that important to me, because you can't make it too much based on RNG, right? You can't make just this one really powerful thing spawn every once in a while. Everything has to be pretty comparable, and so since everything's comparable, I don't care. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate, because the actual weapons and the gameplay are incredibly engaging, I think, like the actual structure of combat, but how those ideas progress, aside from, getting an entirely new type of firearm or a new type of ability, right? Outside of those things, you really don't feel that the rest is very significant. In fact, it's a very dominant strategy game. Once I got the rocket launcher gun, didn't use anything else.
Oh, I didn't get that gun. I used the shotgun and the sniper rifle.
It killed everything.
I'm sure it did.
And I upgraded it all the way.
I don't know why I didn't get it, because I had a crazy amount of whatever that resource is. I forget. But you mentioned I don't want to get away from the loot too much yet.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, keep going.
You mentioned the random loot. And yeah, you stop caring, one, about loot that is for items you're not using, because some of the loot, most of the loot works on any of your guns. Some of the loot only works on,
and there are like 5 or 6 different gun varieties that you unlock throughout the game. There's the standard pistol, just shooting 1, 2, 3. There's more of a charged sniper rifle type gun. There's the rockets. There's a mine launcher. There's
I think we do this a lot. We kind of forget to sell the immediate premise. This is a third-person cover shooter with the sort of looter shooter pay to win. Yeah. I mean, there's not pay to win mechanics here.
In terms of the actual combat, though, picture telekinetic Uncharted.
Yes, and some of those ideas are great. And
we'll touch base on those a little later.
Very clean, but we'll definitely get to that. But you mentioned not caring about that stuff. Yeah, if you're not using those guns, you don't care about the things that are specific for those guns. And at a certain point in the game, there's like 4 points in the game where you stop caring about a particular tier of resource.
Yeah, and unlike in a service game, typically those you'll have a way to dump that stuff, and what you're getting in its place is I know stuff like Destiny 2 can be pretty game changing for your gun. It like perfects your build or whatever. This is not as expansive of that. Think Horizon Zero Dawn in terms of the progression tree, but then throw random loot into that tree as well. And it undermines the game, unfortunately.
It does.
I was a little disappointed in that.
It's very annoying that you've got to go into, because you can only carry a specific amount of these upgrades, and you can't upgrade like your pack. You don't really have a pack. There's just a limit to the number of upgrades you can have. So you've got to go in and manually dismantle each of them for 1
Pennies.
to 3 resources or so, or does it only give you the?
It only gives you the main currency, and
currency.
it's
Okay,
pretty much pennies on the dollar.
it is. It really is terrible. But I didn't think I was going to think of this game again for a long time. But I really appreciated one of the perks you can get in Cyberpunk that automatically breaks down any of your consumables and the trash you pick up, instead of having to go sell it or manually break it all down.
It's like it knows that you want to be going for crafting, and so you just turn it on and bada bing, bada boom.
I think moving forward, it would be really smart for any game that does something like this to allow you to set a threshold. If this is not greater than level 2, break it down. I don't want it, taking up space here.
I think it's a great idea.
I don't want to have to, manage my inventory. So break down anything less than level 2.
I think that's
you're
great.
also I think it was the last 3 hours of the game, I intentionally did not open a single chest. I didn't care anymore because I had level 5 upgrades for which is the highest level of upgrade for the 2 guns I was using and for my personal upgrades. So then they were just a waste of time, and I didn't want to waste my time, and we'll get to not wanting to do that later. I turned on God mode towards the end of the game.
Yeah, we'll talk about combat later. I'd like to jump into something that does work in this game. And for me, so a little premise for those who aren't aware. You just show up at this place called the Oldest House. It looks like a classic corporate building, corporate colors, everything in there, the reflective surfaces, everything you'd imagine from a modern corporate office building, right? It's called the Oldest House. And you show up.
Great name.
It's so cool. And there's nothing... you just kind of get thrust into this adventure through a couple different things. You become the new director of the Oldest House because you're able to attune to these special objects that Tyler was talking about earlier. And you start having to kind of clean up this mess caused by this young adult bad guy named the Hiss, which is just this red, inexplicable thing that never...
It's a red presence.
Yeah, which is a cool idea. I like things that are vague and abstract like that because it lets her natural responses to a lot of that stuff alienate you, and it feels good to be alienated because I don't understand this. Why does she seem to think this is normal and okay? I thought she would also be weirded out by this. She's not the classic player avatar.
Definitely.
Right? And I like that in games. I like feeling alienated from that. It makes me want to dig in more. And where this really set in is, there's some weird, crazy environments, but you are told you need to find this black rock from the Black Rock Quarry, and you're kind of told it's, generates a special kind of energy. It's useful for something that you're trying to interact with. So you go, and you're walking through these hallways of this building. It starts to open up into more of a warehouse area, and then you step out, and there's just the expanse of space above you and the entrance into the corporate building behind you, but the building hasn't ended. You're not outside the building. Mm-hmm. It's just this space that is inhabiting the same space, but it's, it's bigger on the inside, it's this really well done moment because they don't have any enemies yet. There was nothing, it was a little fight beforehand. And so I walk out and I go, wow, the sense of place really hit home there for me. I was really impressed with it. It does bend your brain a little bit, not in trying to make you think in a different way, just wow, this sense of space here is really off. And you knew that the whole time, but that really sold it for me. And I loved the little moments like that sprinkled throughout the game. There is this sense of alienation and that things don't quite add up. 1 and 1 don't make 2 in this game. And I really like it. I think those moments really help me want to engage with the game, even when the other parts were failing for me.
Yeah. The sense of place is pretty incredible. And you mentioned it's already sort of weird. It wasn't too out there that it's bigger on the inside. The whole the entirety of the Oldest House is designed that way, and it's sort of breathing and living on its own. And if you leave it alone for too long, it will move. Not the building itself, but this guy's office might be upside down, or this room might now be in the middle of a forest somewhere.
What's the sticky note thing too?
The sticky note is great. I found that way later in the game, but there's someone's office, and it's a very large office, so there's probably a few people that work there. But you walk in and, well, you approach the door first, and you can't actually open it till later in the game. I think it's a level 4 or 5 lock, but there's sticky notes bleeding out from under the door and, you know, around the cracks of the door, just sort of bleeding out onto the wall. And you finally go in, and wall to wall, sticky notes everywhere. And just on the middle of the first desk you see, there's a piece of paper you can pick up, and it's just an email from a guy saying, something caused my sticky note to multiply. I can't work here. You can catch me on my cell phone. I'll be at home. That's it. There's nothing. Oh, there's a chest in the room, but there's nothing else.
It's
It doesn't talk about the, you know, whatever weird magic caused it to multiply. It's just a weird thing, and it exists.
And people
Period.
accept it.
Yeah. Actually, that moment, especially like the lighting in the room, the use of the yellow the yellow sticky note with the, you know, brown leather or the brown upholstery and the cement, just the way those colors were bouncing off each other, that whole scene was one of the most Lynchian things I saw in there, or no, one of the most like Twin Peaks sort of moments.
Sure. Well,
because it is more.
You talked about the visual composition. Let's talk about your favorite part of this game.
Okay, my favorite part of this game.
Your hard drive is testament.
Oh my gosh! So each photo of this game is about at 2K, that is, it is between 5 and 8 megabytes. I have nearly 3 gigabytes of photos.
It's incredible.
I have many photos that I've yet to edit. I don't know if I'll edit them, but definitely get them ready for Instagram.
But yeah, the lighting, the composition.
So much time. Yeah, the environment is like specifically made for this. It's so well composed for photography. You know, you walk around a corner and there's really bright colored pipes going down long hallways, and fog coming in from some chain link fence, or there's in the basement there is fungus growing, and it's sort of like eaten through the floor. And when you first walk into this space, there's like a part of the floor that has not been eaten away yet, and it sort of stands up higher than everything else, and it's just covered in mold, this entire room. And on this like altar of mold is someone's desk, a really comfy looking chair, a lamp next to the chair that's on and shining down, and it's one of the greatest images in the game, but it's so intentionally positioned there for photography, and I love it, absolutely love it. And the way, I'll take a moment to talk about the architecture as well. The architecture in this game is incredible. The sort of mixture of, I don't want to overuse the word surrealist. I feel like
that's what they're going for, though, in this game.
It's definitely what they're going for, but it's mixed with brutalist architecture. And another one of my favorite moments, not moments, but just like places in the game, is really early on, the mailroom. You walk in and there's, I think, 8 pillars. There's either 3 or 4 on each side of the room. 8 pillars, you know, from floor to ceiling. This huge ceiling. But these pillars have plastic yellow tubes that go from the floor. Well, they're sort of positioned in a way that you can put mail tubes in them, but they go up into the ceiling. And instead of just going directly into the ceiling, they sort of umbrella out and then go back up into the ceiling. And they're like giant mushrooms. You're walking in under this canopy of neon yellow mushrooms and cement, and it looks incredible.
Yeah,
like I really haven't seen things like this. It's really beautiful. The game is beautiful. It's got incredible ideas, but
that's a double-edged sword, I'd say. You know, you talk about how intentionally composed it is for that visual stimulus, that you know, that emotional reaction, that intellectual reaction from the way the environment is built and presented to the player. because one of my biggest problems is you can fly in this game, and it's awesome, but it is almost never actually useful to do in combat.
There's literally a single time that it was
like obviously.
Well, actually, I didn't use it because I had already turned on God mode at the time. So it wasn't useful for the fight to me, but that's the only time I saw that it would have been useful.
Yeah, and I did use it there, and it was amazing. It was my favorite combat in the whole game because I was able to fly around like a telekinetic badass and launch objects at people. The game has a really well-designed destruction physics. Really well-designed destruction physics.
Yeah, I think they're using... I pulled up a couple videos, but forgot to show you what voxels are.
Yeah, I had no idea
I think they're using either, if not voxels, something similar to voxels. It's an incredibly destructible environment. Everything breaks down into very small pieces.
And you can, pull things to you to chunk at enemies, and if there's nothing highlighted, it will pull chunks out of the ground or the railing. It's really dynamic, and it feels so good.
So good. And, if you position some enemies right, you can pick up, if you upgrade the strength of that enough, you can pick up, like, a dumpster from behind the enemies and knock all of them down. And by the time it finally gets to you and you position this big heavy item, they're all getting up, and you just throw it back and knock all of them down, and they're dead.
It's
nice.
Great. The forklifts explode in this game.
Yeah.
So if you pick up a forklift, I can't tell you how many times I was like so excited. Oh, you're going down, and I'd throw it at my feet and die because I was just too excited.
It's also huge, so it's hard to maneuver around.
Yeah, and those are times where I did find myself actually levitating later, was to try to get a better angle with those massive objects, but it wasn't that often. So where I was going with that is the level design is not conducive to the incredibly interesting and the variety present in your combat mechanics. It is far more to look pretty. And some people prefer that, and I understand. But from a gameplay point, especially because of how often combat is used in this game,
so often,
there's like one simple power cube puzzle that you do from time to time. Doesn't
it's not
stretch
even a puzzle. There's a lock on a door that needs a power cube, and you go put it on. You levitate it and throw it at the lock.
And later in the DLC, which I did get to play, there are some shadow puzzles, but again, never really too much of a brain teaser. I can see where they were going, trying to break up the combat, but really, the combat is your goal, your pathway there. The end of everything is just more combat, which is unfortunate because games like that work. I think it's something like Doom, where, especially the 2016, unless you're trying to get all the secrets, there's just combat.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's get a key card, kill something, combat. Like, that's it, and it works. And I have played that game like 4 times to completion. Right? Those games work, but the game's environments don't make use of a lot of the coolest and most fun tools to use. I can tell you, every time I went into combat in the latter half of that game, it was pick up items and chunk them at people until I ran out of juice, shoot people until I ran out of that. That means my telekinetic juice was powered back up, throw items, and I'd just rinse and repeat and run and hide. And it became pretty stale pretty fast because of that, unfortunately.
Quickly. And yeah, you're right about the level design. The meticulous detail put into almost every environment here does detract from the sort of gameplay fun that you would expect to have in a shooter like this. And I think you were mentioning before, we're so excited to play Uncharted 4 specifically. We played the other ones.
Yeah, and we've just put out 4 for way too long now.
We pushed it off for next week's episode. Very excited to finally share that with you. But so we'll get around to it sooner than later. But we're very excited to play it because we do love those games. But this probably, as you were mentioning, has better shooting, like better combat than Uncharted.
Yeah, it definitely does. The variety, the stuff you can do.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety here. Well, there is an engaging amount of variety at the very least.
Yeah, and I mean, come on, being able to fly in any third-person shooter
and levitate,
and that adds so much if you use it.
Yeah, but Uncharted is so incredibly paced and presented and
lots of
there
big
isn't
moments
a moment.
of downtime, big cinematic set pieces that
Yeah.
aren't as much about the shooting, more about just getting dragged along by a truck or
Yeah.
hanging out of a,
And so it's able to mix all that up and pretty much never feel stale. I don't remember one of the Uncharted games feeling stale.
The only time I ever was frustrated with Uncharted is typically their big final shootout can get pretty tedious. That I remember that consistently from all 3 Uncharted games that I've played, is the final shootout was kind of always like, come on, can't you give me like a big puzzle or some sort of like different delivery at the end, I guess, because it got a little tedious. But that's the very end of the game. And those games are almost about as long as this one, maybe a little longer. I think 4 specifically is a little longer, but
yeah, this is a pretty short game, like 11 hours or so.
yeah, I think without the DLC I spent 10 and a half hours or so.
Well, yeah, that's about right.
After DLC I think
I spent much longer than that.
It was about 12 I think after the DLC. So yeah, you and your photo mode.
Yeah. This is a good one. And this photo mode, I complained, I think in our Game of the Year episode, I was talking about how robust the photo mode is in Ghost of Tsushima. And I used the Cyberpunk photo mode, Colossus, and not Uncharted, but Last of Us 2. And those just really weren't doing it for me. They had some interesting features, but they were pretty clunky. This is super simple. It's not doing anything special, but it just works. Period. It's super easy to use.
Yeah.
I was able to jump in and jump out. And honestly, it sounds like I have more photos than I do. Each photo I took 3 to 5 versions of. I just apply the different filters and I'll choose which one I want to save later.
Okay.
So it's not as much as it sounds like.
It's still a lot.
It's still a lot. But it's 3 to 5 copies of the same
I just love people
photo.
who do virtual photography. Like that's their thing.
Oh my god!
Those people
Some
are
of the people
incredible.
on Instagram and Twitter are incredible.
Yeah,
definitely.
I love
Want
them.
to be them.
Yeah, I was about to say, I love them so much. But yeah, I agree with you. All those points that we've made so far, we've had a pretty similar experience, I'd argue. In the DLC, since I got a chance to play it, I do want to talk about it a little bit.
Please.
I never played Alan Wake, but they loop in a real tangible horror element. Picture like Resident Evil style horror, where it's not, PT trying to like really get underneath your skin. Just horror elements that can be scary a little bit here or there. Playing with lighting, playing with weird creature designs, and they do that really well. And I enjoyed those moments quite a bit, even though it was still more of the same problems from the rest of the game, obviously. But I did like that quite a bit, and the boss was crazy, and just fun stuff like that. And you get to dig more into this shared universe that they've created. So.
How much of the side content did you get into in the base game?
Only a little. So I did all of Ati's stuff that I could. So Ati is a Finnish janitor who is more than he seems, and
Definitely.
his voice actor, I think his voice actor actually won a BAFTA. I believe. I'm not sure. I know he was nominated. Incredible performance. Every time he opened his mouth, I sat there just transfixed and listened. Not only because he's got a great accent, but it's he's just saying these bizarre things as well. You just like him. Like immediately when you meet him, you're like, he's a little bit.
He's kind of off-putting.
I was about to say off-putting. It's like you don't trust him necessarily, but you like him. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys.
But there's a lot of mystery to him. He's the kind of janitor that has magical paintings in which he takes vacations, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I do. All day.
And he has a Walkman that allows him to traverse, I don't know, like interstellar portals. That's kind of cool, which we'll talk about that moment. I think it's
Let's jump into it, man.
stunning.
I think it's a great
Let's talk
moment.
about some just really awesome things we saw in the game.
So Black Quarry was a big one.
Black Quarry is a really good one. I like the enemies there. You fight one of them just before you get there, I believe, and they're kind of doing what Knack was trying to do. In that they just wanted to create something like this is an excuse to show how many particles you can have on screen. They're just
Mark.
They're just these floating orbs that just keep consuming rocks, and they're like dangerous space Katamari balls. That's basically what they are, and they
Sure.
they come flying at you, and they're dangerous, and you can't kill them. So those are really cool to see,
I like
and there was a
those.
lot of those in the quarry, and the quarry also had weird gravity. I couldn't fly yet when I got there, which you can get these things out of order. These various power ups. Like I didn't get guard, I think, until after I got fly.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't realize like when I could have gotten guard, I didn't realize I was supposed to break the
For
red
the
things
door.
and then go through the door. That was very silly of me. But anyway, I think you can get those things out of order. Maybe not, get fly. It's not sequence breaking is the point. But I didn't have fly yet, the ability to fly by the time I got there. And I had to do some okay platforming to get up these weird floating monoliths that are just surrounding this giant pillar in the middle of the quarry that just reaches into space. And yeah, as you mentioned, you just walk through an office door and oh look, the universe.
Yeah, some foreign dreamscape.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
We mentioned the sticky note room. Did you do the fridge? Did you fight the enemy in the fridge?
There's like this very massive, entity, giant one-eye worm, huge claws that makes no sense. There's nothing else like it in the game, and you just have to fight it in a fridge.
Yeah, in a fridge. So this fridge is affected by the. It's
called
pulled...
the former. I think it's implied that it was the former bureau, because there's currently this black pyramid that speaks to you that is the bureau of the board of control, which you're now the director of because you touched the gun, and the bureau tested you, deemed you worthy, and it's implied that this creature is the former board. It's
bizarre.
It's very bizarre, and it's it doesn't, you don't kill it. It's just you just kind of banish it. It's far beyond anything you could ever actually harm or do anything to.
But this fridge, it's this old rusty like fridge from the 40s or 50s, and it needs to be physically observed at all times because it shifts and morphs into other things and is sort of like the baby from Incredibles. Yeah, who knows what's going to happen, so watch it. It's going to stay there if you watch it. And the person that's currently on shift is forgotten about when
the hiss breaks out.
When everything happens, and so he's been there for like going on 2 days.
Yeah, and he's just like, I can't, my eyes, they burn.
Yeah, he's like not closing them. Maybe he should just blink one eye.
I think what's happening is he's probably like moisturizing his eyes or something, but like I gotta imagine just keeping your eyes open that long, there's other consequences.
Yeah, but also he's got to go to the bathroom, he's got to eat, but he can't because he's watching this and he's like crying to you, like, please get someone to relieve me. I don't care what's going on out there. I can't look at this anymore. And for some dumb reason, when you go to the back, the door is unlocked. Like you unlock the door, then you're walking back to go in the room, but the doors lock again. And when you walk in there, the fridge has eaten him.
There's a little pool of blood on the ground.
Consumed him. And then you travel into the fridge.
And fight a giant
it's
worm-like space monster.
What is happening here?
It somehow fits the aesthetic. Like
absolutely.
It just works. It's very odd.
The hotel the motel is a great touch. So that's a place that you revisit pretty often, about like every other chapter in the game. There is so when the agents are traveling around, sort of like Dale Cooper, to investigate weird things. Now I know Cooper is just investigating a murder, but they're just traveling around to odd towns throughout the U.S. investigating sightings of the bizarre. And they're usually stopping at these cheap,
AWEs.
dirty motels. Yeah. And that has become an archetype. As we mentioned in the beginning, like a ketchup bottle or the hotel keychain that they mention, a cell phone, whatever. It's become an archetype. And that's now a place that allows you to travel between dimensions. And each of the hotel rooms, they morph. The motel rooms, I mean, they morph every time you ring the bell, and there's like no one around, but also it's surrounded by people. You mentioned like you can hear people talking outside.
Yeah, you can hear
Is that
like
correct?
people talking outside, and sometimes they're freaking out. Sometimes they're just like, "Oh, is there? Why can't we get in here? Nobody's open. I guess they're closed." I don't. Just couples arguing and stuff like that. It's very odd.
Yeah, but it's presented so well.
Yeah, it's definitely
It's one of the better touches
in
of the game. But what else do you want to talk about?
Really, you've touched on most of the stuff I liked. The last thing that we need to talk about is the ashtray maze.
Yes,
I think.
we will talk about that. I don't know if there's a side quest here because I didn't feel like doing it, like finding bodies from surrounding areas and bringing them to the furnace. But there's a sentient furnace that likes to eat people. But it can't. It doesn't like walk around. It is just a fire burning in a furnace, but the fire is sentient, though contained in the furnace. And there's an agent that hears it and is trying to find volunteers to feed it. So I was going to look for bodies that I can... There's none in the immediate area, so you'd have to carry bodies with you, and I just didn't get around to doing that. I don't even know if you can do anything. It's not like an actual mission that shows up in your your mission feed, but your quest log, I guess. But it's there and it exists.
Sure.
And it's really cool. And if you throw things in it, you can hear sort of in the background a roar as though it's a monster. That was a pretty cool little touch.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
But
talk to me about the ashtray maze, though.
Ashtray maze.
That's definitely the highlight of the game.
Yes, I don't only think it's the best moment in the game. It's honestly one of the best moments I've had in a little while. Unfortunately, it, I think, is again undermined by the combat.
Sure, there's a lot of back-to-back combat in this section.
Yeah.
But I disagree only because I think this section makes the best use of the mechanics. I think the level design here, I was flying around, throwing stuff. I was using cover that was rising and falling as I was moving.
Okay, I'm very happy you had fun. That's good, because I had already turned God mode on at this point, and it wasn't a challenge. It was just this moment of awe, which was also great.
Sure.
So I'm happy it works out either way. That's good to hear. But the ashtray maze is this, like, I don't know, maybe like 60s Vegas hotel lobby.
Whites and reds and, just kind of those stuff that would be considered cheesy wall decor. I mean,
it's an archetype.
Now. Yeah.
And that's, I love their use of archetypes in this game.
Absolutely.
And their definition of that. As soon as you see it, you will know. Straight lines, like not quite what is that, Art Deco, but
not quite.
A lot of like tan and red and straight lines. All the wallpaper is made up of diamonds, and in every room there's 2 chairs, an end table, and an ashtray, and it makes sense. You've been there before, but every time you walk into a room,
Dale Cooper has definitely been there before.
Absolutely. And in fact, I think they are invoking a little bit of the lodge.
100,000.
This is their lodge.
%.
And every time you walk into a room, the room behind you shifts and folds in on itself like one of 2 things. Either any, one of those crazy scenes from Inception, or if you've listened to Joe Rogan talk about DMT. That's what I imagine DMT to be.
Sure.
It's a DMT trip. It's cool. And so you're walking through this maze. You can't get through it. It eventually just comes right back out to where you started. I found that pretty early on in the game. Thought it was really cool, but whatever. There's a chest at the end. I was like, oh, that they could have done something better with that. That's sort of underwhelming. Oh well, like the rest of the game. Turns out it's the finale, And Ati gives you his bright yellow Sony Walkman, and you put on these headphones, and some crazy rock music starts playing, and it guides you through the maze. And it keeps one-upping itself every freaking second. And you're walking through it just like it has before. It starts shifting. Oh, now the ceiling is folding in. Interesting. Okay, now I've got to walk in this direction. Cool. Yeah, they're doing some really interesting
An enemy
things.
will show up and the wall will eat him and you have to go a different way. Like, just weird stuff.
And then suddenly the doorway stretches and becomes its own hallway. And then the door closes and now you're in another hallway. And the ceiling starts raining on you. And then it opens up and becomes this crazy universe, and it just keeps folding in and shifting, and it's seemingly endless. And it is, all while this music is playing, this just really hard-hitting music.
It's epic.
And yeah, it's one of the most epic moments I've had in quite some time, and it will probably go down as one of my favorite moments this year. I'm sad that it's in this game though, because I'm really not too hot on this game just because of all these amazing ideas. I was let down time and again by the gameplay. I think it's pretty bog standard. It's got some interesting ideas with the flying, which I think is underused. They should have given it to you early, and actually had some interesting
games that front load those really cool, interesting mechanics. I find almost always get a bigger payoff from them.
Yeah,
because you get to play with it earlier, and as long as it's really as deep and interesting, and you use it well, people won't get bored.
Yeah, but there would also have to be a pretty huge paradigm shift for this game to achieve that, and that's what the level design, as you've mentioned. So it really falls short in many of the places that matter. Excuse me. This spear is getting me. Thematically, it is on point, and it really awesome. It's what I want. This is my sort of aesthetic through and through, and it did wow me in several places. Even just listening to the guy talk about the fridge, like crying to me through the intercom. I'm watching him. So I'm just looking at his back, looking at this old rusty fridge, and he's staring at it, crying to me.
You can't see his face.
Yeah. And the sticky notes, that's a simple thing, but that really is a huge Twin Peaks sort of moment. Like, you'll just have to see it and be there to get that feeling. I don't know how to explain it, I guess, better than I have, which was probably pretty poorly, but that was kind of a nostalgic moment, just seeing that, even though I've never seen it before. It's got a lot of great things, and I'm sad that it's wrapped up in this
show
package.
A lot of really good
really
idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, these little, like, very creepy, but not like in the classic, oh, puppets are so scary, just like this, just because they're not quite talking right, and they're saying things that just don't make a lot of sense, and then they'll just stare at you for 60 seconds.
Yeah, and then another one is having the mentor talk about what a failure one of the kids is, and like she needs to succeed because that's really the only reason she's here, so why don't you just do better? And it's like, yeah, he's really tearing her down, but the purpose of those puppet shows existing is because there are a few kids that live in the oldest house and cannot leave, so they don't know what society is, and there are no proper teachers in the oldest house. There's not like a school for kids, so just a couple employees put on this really terrible puppet show, and you can find a few VHS tapes of that. Yeah, that's
good stuff.
Callback. I forgot about that. So yeah, it's just wrapped up in a package that incorporates some, I think, pretty tired gameplay mechanics. I really think there was no reason for that progression system to be there.
I agree.
I think it's it's just a poor progression system. You can incorporate some more interesting ideas or combinations of your powers and your weapons instead of, here's now 17% damage while you're aiming down sights.
What's good though is that it is a short experience. So if a lot of the ideas that you've heard are like, "Oh man, that's so up my alley," and that kind of stuff, should I play it? Should I not? It's 10 hours. Like you're not gonna. It's not a waste of time. Go try it. Like,
Absolutely. And I got myself through the game. Well, I mean, I was going to see it through anyway because it is a short game. I had no reason not to finish it for the podcast. But there's some pretty decent customization here for, I won't say accessibility. There's nothing that's like strictly, at least in this section of the menu, nothing that is strictly for accessibility, but the difficulty in the game, there's not, easy, medium, hard. You can turn on, I think they call it assist mode. And then there's sliders for your ammo regen. So you don't pick up ammo, it just sort of regenerates because you have this weird black rock gun. And so you can increase the ammo regeneration, you can increase your damage multiplier, or you can or increase your damage multiplier, decrease the enemy's damage multiplier. You can turn on one hit and invincibility if you want. So there's a few options there. And I turned up for a little while. I think I turned it up about 20%, my ammo regen and my damage, because honestly I had seen everything that the mechanics of the game had to offer pretty early on. The only thing I hadn't seen yet was flying, and we've already talked about how that really just floundered. In my opinion, I don't think we've spoken that strongly about it, but really I think it's a failure, the flying.
I wouldn't call it a full failure. It's fun. Like I would just sometimes do it, even though I knew it wasn't the best option. Just because it feels good and
because
it's nice.
It feels so good, and it's a great idea, and it fits the world.
Sure. So I'm saying, like, sure, in terms of how you use it in combat as a failure, maybe, but how? And I'd say failure is a pretty strong word, but everything else about it and how it's implemented from a aesthetic, design, feel, all wins, all huge wins.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Failure might be strong. I'm just a little frustrated with.
He really wanted to like it, guys.
I really wanted this game to be in my top 10. I was ready.
Really
I was so ready for this game. So my own fault. I know. I overhyped it for myself. But what was I just saying? Oh yeah. If that's something that might turn you off, just like it does for me. I thought it was pretty stale. You can change that stuff to get through the combat quickly, which is very often. And they really lean on it too much. We didn't talk about that. We talked about the frequency of combat, but I think they rely on it too much as well.
Sure, it's the blocker on your path somewhere. It's the end destination. It's all that stuff.
But they also don't let anything. I don't think there's a single moment in the game that they just let resonate with you. Like one of my favorite examples.
Black Rock Quarry did. Because you have to solve that puzzle first, and so
what puzzle?
You have to puzzle, strong word, just throw the the cubes onto the to power the drill, and once you activate the drill, that's when the enemies show up.
Sure, you're still doing bland video gamey stuff.
Sure, but it's slower, and I felt like I had time to think about it. That's why the moment stuck out to me.
I suppose, but when that idea really came into my head is when, and we didn't mention this space, when you walk into the recreation of Ordinary, which is the character's hometown. They've recreated this entire town with plywood because it, being a small town, has also become an archetype. And they found an object of power, which is an archetype that allows you to interact with the other plane, the astral plane. So the main one you get is a telephone, just a classic. It's a red telephone that you hang up. It's an old classic telephone that allows you to communicate with the astral plane. There's the fridge we talked about. But anyway, Ordinary has sort of become that. And the object of power was found in a dump outside, just outside of the town. So they recreated the town on a much smaller scale, probably like a 1/100th scale. And you can walk around and see her home, see the school she went to, And then she mentions the object of power was in the junkyard. I wonder where they put that. Well, it's literally outside of town. They put it in another section of the warehouse, but they shipped the entirety of the junkyard to the warehouse. So it's not a recreation of the junkyard. It's literally the junkyard that they picked up and moved. And she gets to walk around and sort of relive those moments. But there are 2 waves of enemies in each of those spots, which I think is really selling themselves short. Great ideas.
Yeah, go with it. Let those ideas sit with you. Like, let that be the destination and the goal and your reward. Is just walking through this weird cardboard cutout space.
Yeah, I was like physically frustrated when enemies showed up, because she's walking through the town
and
she's
it's
like,
good frustrated,
wow.
I think, for the game, because you're saying that those moments are worth the time to stop.
Yes.
You know? And so, yeah, I think it's, it's just more of a testament to the amount of good ideas here, and the word we could come back to, undermine.
Yeah.
Undermine. So, yeah, I think I can agree with you 100% on that. It's a shame that someone there felt that they needed to cover it with something else, because it could stand on its own and then some.
Yeah.
Some great ideas and visually presented to perfection.
I didn't get any pictures in the recreation.
What are you doing with your life?
Well, because she was talking at the time, I wasn't going to interrupt that, and then an enemy showed up, and I was like, I just want to quit this stupid game. I literally tossed my controller and just let myself get hit a couple times.
Yeah,
that's when I turned up the multipliers. I think I turned on God mode at that point. The enemy showed up. Let's do this. I knew I had 2.5 missions left. I turned on...
Grab the cardboard and chunk it at him.
Yeah. No, at that point, I switched guns. So when I turned on God mode, I turned every slider up, I turned invincibility on and one-hit KO, and I quit the machine gun. At the time, I was using the shotgun and the sniper, but now just a single bullet will kill anybody. If they were going to... I felt... sort of take those moments from me. It wasn't really worth it for me to play anymore. To play, I still wanted to go through it because it was worth it. Except for the ending. The ending was I disagree. A little short.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it fell a little short. It's fine, because I thought it hit the themes well. It did what it's supposed to.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And by the time that you come back in and you spawn again, is I won't say that to avoid endgame spoilers, but you do get a certain feel that is delivered very well. Both with a kind of a change of outfit and a couple other things that make you feel that something happened. It's cool. I liked it. Sure, if it wasn't like it sucks because it comes right after the ashtray maze, which is just
it's hard for anything to live up to that. Really, the whole experience is worth the ashtray maze.
It's so good.
It's really awesome.
It's so good.
So I liked it well enough. I would recommend it because most people don't hold those feelings.
That's fair.
Most people want to play the blockbuster. So that's fine. I will recommend it to many people. Just like, we've talked kind of negatively about Ghost of Tsushima. But I was able to talk that up with my brother-in-law. I sent him my copy. He couldn't get one himself. So I sent him my copy because I know he'll love it. And there's great ideas there. And I think we disagree. I still love the narrative of that.
Sure, that's fine. And I'm content to disagree because I agree. There are many people I'd recommend this to.
Yeah.
There's a guy I talked to on Discord, not our Discord, a different Discord, and
which you should join.
Yeah, join our Discord. It's good stuff. But I was talking to him, and he said, "You know why I like Ghost of Tsushima?" And I was like, "Well, why? Shoot, like I'm down to listen." And he's like, "It has nothing to do with anything but the incredible historical accuracy of the swordplay." And I was like, "What? Tell me everything." And he gives me this graduate thesis on like where it's wrong but how it's mostly right. And I mean, going down to like, he intentionally tries to destabilize them so he can kill them without having to win at swordplay. Like he'll try to kick them or trip them, or because it's easier to kill them that way than it is to just actually beat them in sword to sword combat. Just little things. I'm like, people play games for such incredibly different reasons, and I'm so happy that Ghost of Tsushima did it for that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And so again, there are those things here. So if any of it sounded interesting, I don't think the failures of this game make it a waste of time at all.
No.
yeah. So anyway, that's all I have to say about it, man.
Yeah, I think I'm about done as well. So we can move on to, what did you say? The Adventures of John
Hitman.
John Hitman.
The weekly adventures of John Hitman and his sidekick, a silence pistol. I don't know. He doesn't really have his.
The coins. I hardly ever use the pistol.
Sure, the
I
coins.
use those coins, man.
Yeah, the coins. Wouldn't it be great if he had like an animal sidekick? You know, like I always think of Metal Gear. Like, oh, you know, I feel like telling my dog to pull a knife from its jacket and go and throat slit that dude.
Can't wait to play that game,
dude. I know, and like just to have something like that in Hitman would be amazing.
Where does the dog?
Dude, like a canary.
Keep the knife?
Like he has a little canary, and it can like mimic voices. Like, hey, like he voices someone's wife. You suck. I hate you. Who said that? And you go and sorry, I'm just.
Before we jump in though,
to canaries.
We're not going to take a break, but do want to mention, our social media here on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'd really appreciate a like, a follow, a subscription, as it were. It really helps out, and we're trying to build a community here
and expand.
Yeah, definitely. So if you like what you've seen so far, if you appreciate the discussion, the honest discussion, and would like to see more Adventures of Hitman, which you're about to see, then join us. Join the community.
Yeah, we also have Twitter, Instagram, on Patreon. We have a couple tiers, but the lowest one, our $2 tier a month, just gets you into our Discord. That's where we're going to be posting a lot of recurring stuff, monthly playthroughs, more photo mode stuff, just sharing games that we own and collect and stuff like that. So if you really want to get plugged in, that's the way to go. But we do post regularly on Twitter and Instagram and try to respond as often as possible. So yeah, check us out in any of those places. We just love community. We love sharing games. We love little stories about the guy that I met about Ghost of Tsushima. Just people with interesting opinions that can challenge me and make me expand what I think a game can and should do, and maybe enjoy it more, So, but yeah, let's move on. We did 2 weekly adventures of John Hitman this time.
Yeah, because this was supposed to be a shorter episode and a shorter week, but we were definitely set back.
Yes, my buddy Justin and I, we double featured it. I went to his house, we went and grabbed a bite, and then we played the Morocco episode. And then we watched some Nathan For You, and then we played the next episode.
So excited to jump into that. I think I'll show Katie before I continue, because we're between shows. I think we're gonna rewatch Firefly though.
Oh, what a good show! I haven't rewatched it in probably 5 years. I should go back.
It's been a little while. I watched about half of it last year or 2019, but then I think you started watching Neon Genesis, so I shifted back to that.
Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yes,
that's really special. But how did you use the canary in these episodes?
There ain't one,
which is a shame, and therefore this game sucks. No,
yep, it's a pretty garbage game.
No, I had a blast, and honestly, Morocco was the one I think my favorite from the first Hitman so far, the 2016 one. So I need to replay it a couple times, before I really get a solid idea of which my favorite is. But so far, I love that there's just this European embassy there. I forget which country it's for. Maybe Swiss, I think. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's right.
And so there's this embassy there, and it's the classic clean office, building kind of stuff, right in the middle of this, like military occupied, some rundown buildings in Morocco. And the distinction is jarring. It tells an interesting story on its own. The actual conflict going on there, with the protests and stuff like that. I believe this is the first one where, blending in the crowd can really be used well.
Oh, yeah. And it's hard to actually do much of anything because the crowd is so dense.
Yeah, and so you have to use it to your advantage. And I really liked the way they implemented it. You can kill the guy with a moose. Mm-hmm. Which is...
It's a plastic or glass moose, but yes, you can drop a moose.
You hit him on the head, you naughty moose.
Yeah, so who is the target? Not his name, but like what is he?
I was about to say, don't ask me to remember his name. So there's the banker who screwed over all these people.
So he's the banker.
Yeah, he's the Swiss banker, and then you have the military general, I think he is.
So the Swiss banker has agreed to an interview with someone, and there's a few ways you can kill him. I love the way I killed him. This time, the first time I killed him, I disguised myself as the cameraman for the interview. The interviewer hadn't met the cameraman yet, so you can find him in a lounge, knock him out, kill him, whatever you'd like to do with him. He's there to be had. And you take his clothes. No, not to be had. Let's just cut that out. And yeah, you take his clothes, and now you're the cameraman. Cool. So you get into the embassy, and there's a few different things you can do. I'd really like to hear about what you did, because I didn't even know that was an option. But I continued on as the cameraman, and you're asked to go upstairs and turn the lights on. After they sit down, they're ready for the interview. And next to the light switch is a crank for this giant moose. That's conspicuous. So I just like unlocked...
What grade of crank do you have, your giant moose? I always use at least a grade 5.
So I just like, unclip the lock for the crank, and oops!
What a horrible tragedy.
The second time, though, so one of the
there was
items...
an audible response from you when you got it.
It was so great. So there is an item you can get, just a proximity mine, but it's really small. It's like the size of a coaster, and the way you plant it is like a coin. You flip it like a coin, but it also alerts people like the coins do. And I don't know if in the footage we're gonna show you'll see me do this, because it took a couple tries. But I flipped the coin, and someone was like, "What was that?" And so I'm walking by as they're about to go investigate, and I just flip another coin in the other direction. A new thing. And so they go check that out instead.
And I love like just the disgust people have for you when they watch you flip a coin. They're like, "How could you littering prick?"
But some of them also, it's so comical. They're like, "Oh my God," almost like what's his name from I Think You Should Leave. Oh my God. Like, just like that. Like, what is this reaction? I'm just trying to help someone out. They'll find it on the street.
It's so good,
really
man.
silly. Hey, I don't think you should be throwing things on the ground.
Yeah.
Just over and over
just
and
the
over.
Aggressive reactions people have.
Hey, you dropped something, sir.
Yeah, it's very good.
Silly. But I tossed this proximity mine under the chair that he would be sitting in.
No.
And so he gets over, he's like, "Okay, let's go start the interview." He goes to sit down, and boom, it just flies to the ceiling. It's really great.
It's so satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took him out. You can actually find his masseuse. If you get behind the counter, you can read that he's expecting a masseuse, and you can go into a room and find this guy. And this is where I'm starting to realize that there is a lot of mechanical depth here that I've been missing so far.
For a particular reason, and I can't wait till we start the next game.
Sure.
'Cause we're going to take more time. I don't think we've been treating it as integral a part of the cast as we should. And
I think we should be playing it like 4 or 5 plus times.
Yeah, I'll play it
twice typically. Yeah.
And I think the previous episode I only played once.
Yeah,
so you're missing a lot.
And when I compare something, it's a third-person stealth shooter, Metal Gear Solid 5. When I think about that game, it took a good 55 hours before I really had a good grasp on every mechanic of that game and was able to play with them and complete missions with just a water gun and crazy stuff like that. Obviously it's that depth isn't quite that deep here. There's a different focus here, but there is a lot of depth in how the AI works. It's not meant to be human-like. It's meant to have exact scripts so that you can mess with it, so you can feel smart and like a Hitman, right? So I accidentally dropped a giant firearm in the room where the masseuse was, and there's a guard in there, and but I had taken that guard out, but I was trying to get to the guy, but someone was about to walk in the room, so I had to stop. I had to deal with it, and the guy comes in and goes, "There's a gun here," and he immediately goes to report it to an officer blocking my path who would recognize you even in an officer's uniform. So the officer comes into the room to investigate, and I'm like, how have I not thought of this before? Like, I can just now walk up there, no questions asked, right past him. And so I did make use of that and failed miserably because of something else. So I went back and did the masseuse thing. So you disguise yourself as masseuse, you go up there, everybody leaves, you're massaging him, and it actually makes you listen to him for a little while. And he's like classic, Goldfinger Bond enemy. Like, I can't believe they're so dumb. They let me take all their money. That's all their fault. Snidely whiplash.
Except he's very clean shaven.
Yeah, he's very clean shaven. But eventually the little X button prompt appears for snap neck. And it's so cool because he's massaging his shoulders, and as casually as possible, like as if it takes no force to do so, he just moves down, snaps his neck in the middle of the sentence, and leaves. It's so satisfying to watch him do it, especially while he's bad guy monologuing. So I really enjoyed it.
Does it give you the creeps when you're like at the chiropractor or something, and you just have to put this incredible level of trust in somebody that's cracking your neck?
Yeah.
It's like, that's one of the few things in life that genuinely scares me.
That's fair. I think that's a totally valid fear.
And now because of this, I'll probably never do that again.
Like I've always told people, like, there are fears that make no sense. Like, you can have them. That's fine. Like,
they're called phobias.
Totally makes sense, but there are those that make tangible sense. Fear of the sea is one of the most, you should be afraid of the ocean. Fear of spiders. You should probably be afraid of spiders, like, sure, not all of them, but like, there are
some of them will kill you, like, actually
almost immediately. Rot your arm off.
Or rot your arm. Oh my God.
Yeah, we got a lot of brown recluses here in Texas, so
surprisingly, I think the population is educated enough on them. Like, I've actually never heard of a brown
my buddy, his arm is actually a part of his arm is missing. Like, wow, right here at the top on his forearm, because he didn't realize it was a brown recluse when he got bit.
I'd love to see.
Yeah, unfortunately, he lived in Houston back when we were in Houston, but he loves telling the story though. And he's just, yep, I was an idiot. Like, now I
just have to like get a grapefruit spoon and just
he
carve it out.
He just puts some of his juice in there and some beer and just drinks that. No, that's disgusting. No, it's actually not that much. Like, it's enough. It's not enough to be a conversation starter unless you're really interesting about it. It's just about that deep. But they just couldn't replace it, and he didn't want to pay for a screen graft or anything over it. But he waited long enough for it to start rotting. It was very interesting. Anyway, that's scary. Let's talk about something else. Yeah. But yeah, I'm starting to notice those mechanics a lot more, and I appreciate that stuff, because I've started on these two missions in particular to not go by the scripted kill methods, which are not a bad thing. I think those are a blast, but to have the freedom to really just use your tools and mess with the AI and get it to work out in your favor, I think that's where the game really shines as something more than the sum of its parts in a lot of ways. You get and the save system is so good. Any other game would feel
saves,
cheap.
Yeah, this encourages save scamming.
Yeah, it wants you to. It wants you to get it right. It wants you to do it your way, no matter how many tries it takes.
Yeah, I think it took me about 6 tries to get that coin flip right, because people will see you. There's a lot of people in the room, so you've got to position yourself correctly to not be seen when you drop it, which is like just behind his chair. There's a good spot to flip it right under his chair. I wish I would have been smart enough to flip it in his seat. That would have been way more comical.
Yeah.
It was still funny enough though. And then someone from the side will still hear it. And then, if you throw the coin too soon to distract the guard again, he'll see you throw it and be like, dude, what?
Dude, what?
And then continue checking out the original distraction. So yeah, I had to try that a bunch of times, but it encourages you to do that.
Yeah, it's not going to punish you for messing up. And I think, and sure, you can set it to harder difficulties when you really feel confident and you want to get that clean run out of it.
That's more of a testament to the fact that they encourage saving, because saving is a resource they start to diminish through those progressions, but they always leave at least one save. I think the hardest difficulty allows for one save, and that's a resource you can use. Yeah,
and it's just I like games that are willing to turn everything into a mechanic.
Yeah, it is 100% a video game. It is not trying to be anything else.
Yep.
Like you said, it is just putting. You didn't say this. You implied this. it's really just putting a little bit of dressing on the raw code, just for you
that's
to
fair.
be able to interpret it. But there's just under the surface is all of the code.
And they're proud of it, and they handle it really well. I think it's a really elegantly designed game, to be honest. And of course, the level design, we talked about that a lot on the first episode, just consistently shines through. There's a school where the military general, where the general is hosting a lot of his forces. That's his base of operations, this old rundown school building, and it's 2 floors, a bunch of different rooms. Some don't have doors you can close. It makes you have to consider that stuff. You're just always thinking about,
some of them are locked,
your whole environment.
and
Talk about that. Yeah.
So I found a shop just like a block away from the school, and this guy is talking to some woman out in the street, and they're talking about his dad, and this is one of the conversations that you can eavesdrop on and sort of get a story mission. And he talks about his dad, who was involved with the school in some way. I don't know what his involvement was exactly, but he's got a master key to the school. It's an abandoned school that's now occupied by the military, but he just keeps this key for nostalgia's sake. And he's a rich guy on the roof just having some alcohol. And you learn this from eavesdropping. So you can go up there, and it's this very dapper gentleman, white beard and mustache, a like tan suit, and not a fedora. What are they called? Like the totally flat brim all the way around. Anyway,
I'm the wrong person to ask.
Sure. Anyway, just a really dapper guy, and he doesn't even care that you're up there. You can just go take the key. It's on another table. He's like it's not even near him. It's not a challenge to get at all. But definitely want to wear that suit when I go and kill a warlord.
Of course you do.
Gonna have to take that old guy out. Sorry, man. And I do.
What a great game.
And then you engage in some of the worst platforming that you can imagine, which is fine. That's not what the game is about. But on the side of the building, you can sort of scale this little ledge and do some platforming around the edge of the building and get onto somebody else's balcony. And for some reason, in their window-mounted AC unit is a battle axe. And so you take it out of this window-mounted AC unit, and now you're in this, dapper white guy's suit scaling the side of a building with a battle axe.
And you're playing Hitman.
Yeah. And so I've got the key to the school now, so I can go anywhere in the school. Unless it's a new door that's put up by the military. There's some obviously brand new doors that they have installed. But I'm able to get in and out in ways that I wouldn't be able to otherwise. And I was able to sneak in. And you can throw the battle axe, and it's very satisfying. It's like a full body throw. But you can also just stealthily take people out with it. And it's so satisfying because the way he slits their throat is so it's like a two crescent shapes for the battle axe, and you can get their necks stuck in one of the arches of the crescent and sort of like almost dance around them as you slit their throat and just continue walking.
It's an art.
Yeah, it's very nice. So I'm just dancing through this military base and finally find the leader. But there's a cutlass there. I think I'll use a cutlass instead. And I sort of distract him. He's about to leave the room.
Switch from a Russian march to a tango.
Yep. No, I just stabbed him with it. It's actually nothing particularly nice. But it's just for some reason in this giant chair, this beautiful chair, just stabbed into the cushion is this cutlass. So I drop a coin. Of course, I drop a coin to get him to come back in the room. And as soon as he turns around, I just stab him, let him down easy. And then I'm out of there. Out of there.
Yeah. You kick a toilet on his head.
That's good. That's real good.
Yep.
You can kick toilets on people's heads.
That's really just
That's
anybody.
a good game.
I feel like I just want to save and just get every single NPC in that entire map. Somehow get them over there and kill each of them.
Have you seen anything for Hitman 3?
No, I've intentionally seen nothing yet.
I want to tell you about one thing. I just saw a GIF. There's like a grape press, I think it is. It's like
Okay.
an automated grape press. Maybe it's something else, but that's what I'm imagining it's used for. Just this giant plate that comes down and smashes whatever is underneath it.
Whatever happens.
I imagine it's some sort of grape press because everyone it's like a very nice building. It's like a super rich party. So I don't know what else it would be used for. It's not like an industrial place. So this person put every person in the level into the grape press.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I intentionally stopped. Like I didn't want to finish to see what happened. But that's the kind of game you can play.
Yeah,
Seems
and
great.
that's what's special. I love it. I love what I've played so far, for sure. But we did play 2 episodes.
We did.
And I was not as big a fan of the next one, but it was still fun.
I agree. After playing the first one a second time, so I wasn't such a fan the first time of playing the Morocco level because there was so much trial and error for me because it's so densely packed. It's hard to do anything. But the second time around, you sort of know the level a little more. I was able to pick out a few spots very easily.
Which is why we should be playing them more.
Definitely.
For sure.
And so when we get around to the second one, our schedule's still pretty packed. Try to play the next episode more, but we're definitely going to put more emphasis on the second Hitman. And then, of course, Hitman 3 is going to be a full episode. So we'll be playing that for 2 weeks straight.
Oh, yeah. And it's going to be amazing.
Yes, I'm very excited. So I wasn't very hot on Morocco until my second playthrough. I definitely prefer it over.
And this one is Thailand,
one.
Correct? Which is
I forget.
I believe it's
right.
Thailand.
Right.
Especially because I've actually had the opportunity to be go to both Bangkok and Chiang Rai in Thailand, and the first thing that stood out to me was the color palette, like the color palette of a place. Not like a building or just like this is a place, and I associate these colors in my mind with it. Mm-hmm. It evokes that brilliantly. It was amazing. It was amazing how just being outside in that level, the colors made me think of my time there. So I really hope it was Thailand because that's what it made me think of and really resonate with. But you're trying to kill a lawyer for this family, and the son in the family, just this rocker boy for an indie rock band. Indie, quote unquote. And it's so funny because I walked up, you walk in the hotel, and immediately the lawyer walks up next to me. Like he's right there. And I'm like, okay.
What do I do?
And so I flipped to mine and I ran away really far, and he just stood there and talked to the lady. He's like, what the hell is that? And later, when we redid the level, we found him just standing somewhere again, like ordering food. And we're like, oh, we can poison him. And my buddy Justin's like, no. And he flips the mine again, and he picked it up. and he pickpocketed it.
I told you it works like a coin.
And so he's like, what is this? And he pockets it. And so we just waited and followed him a little bit, watched him. We're like, it is time. And we just blew him up.
Oh, a mine. I was thinking a proximity mine, which is what I was, which is what I used.
Yeah, that was just the remote detonator.
Yeah,
mine.
That's what you're supposed to put in the camera, for the interview. There's a camera right next to the chair, and you can put a remote detonator.
Yeah, I actually don't know any of the scripted events for the Thailand episode, just because I had way too much fun just goofing off. Actually, so the rocker boy goes into a sound booth to like test his mic. And like, hey man, just go get some, some water or something. You're like, again, oh, I should go poison that water. I was like, no. So he turns to leave, and so he's in this closed sound booth, and I'm just like standing here inside the booth with the rock star. Nobody can see me behind because the door's closed, and everybody can see through the front glass. But when he's done, like, test, mic test, when he's done, he'll turn around, and they all turn around to talk to each other, and I'm like, I'm just gonna punch him. And I did, and nobody knew. And so I just killed him and walked out. And it was like I was halfway away before they're like, what happened here? who did this? And I was like, I'm the one technician just standing there in the sound booth with him, waiting. I am here for sound things. Like,
I definitely stick to the scripted moments. I did not with the Warlord of my first playthrough, and then the we talked about the proximity mine I flipped under the guy's chair. That's not scripted. But typically I've been sticking to the scripted stuff
because it's funny a lot of the time too.
It's funny, but also again, going back to us not putting so much value in it or emphasis on it, I just haven't been giving myself enough time to explore in that manner. So I disguise myself as the drummer. There's a replacement drummer that he hasn't met yet. That's very convenient. The drummer quit, and so the studio calls in another drummer.
Well, yeah, but he just exploded. He's just put his little puddle, right there on the drum seat, and we're like, well, I guess we got to find a new drummer.
No, he quit.
Okay,
because the guy's a douchebag. But this other guy's also bald.
Sure.
So cool. I'll be a bald guy. And everyone's complimenting me on my clothes because they're so cool, and I'm a rock star, and I'm pushing people around because I'm
a
the
rock
bee's
star.
knees. Yeah, and so you go and you chat with him for a little bit, and eventually he wants to take you out on the roof, and I forget what he's telling you about. I think he's telling you about like a new project or something, and he's leaning on the edge. You can either push him over. I just slit his throat. I sort of like walked over.
Oh, really? Any opportunity to have to push someone off of something, I do it. Like even when it alerts me, like everybody
that's why
knows
I didn't
now.
want to get. I didn't get.
Even when it happens,
noticed.
I just like doing it. It's just so satisfying. Maid is stooping over the corner, tap, and just like push him over. It's very satisfying.
Definitely. Can't imagine doing that to someone.
Oh, ever.
I can't imagine doing any of this to anybody.
Sure. I mean, I can imagine, taking some piano wire and
yeah. Oh, that's a great weapon. That's so good. Well, piano wire would kill them. This is not piano wire, but the what is it called? What is the weapon called?
The Watcher.
No.
That's a inside
Don't ever
joke.
watch The Watcher, okay? It's a bad movie.
This is pre-Tyler being enlightened on what a good movie is.
Yes, correct. I come from a very uncultured family.
And so he was convinced that this, we were showing him, Fight Club and, the classic, teenager, this is the best movie ever movies.
Yeah.
And he's like, guys, have you seen The Watcher? And actually, later in our lives, I found it on, not Blu-ray, but HD DVD.
Yeah, I think I got all of you a gift.
Yes,
gave
and
everyone a copy.
he gave it to all of us.
Yes. I got everyone a copy of The Watcher on HD DVD.
Keanu Reeves' finest moment.
No. One of the lower points in his career. But actually, we might appreciate that movie differently now because I think we have a different appreciation for Keanu Reeves.
Sure, I agree with that 100%. I just love Keanu Reeves, and I love
because he does bring that. From what I remember, it's been a decade and a half since I've watched it, or a decade rather. He does bring that sort of Keanu swagger, but he's stripped women down to their underwear, tied them to a desk chair, and is dancing with them in their living room.
It's very odd.
So it's very odd. He dances he turns music on. He has dinner with them. He dances with them, but they're tied in a chair, and then he strangles them with piano wire.
That's why this tangent happened, and I'm so sorry. Let's get back to the video game.
Yeah, what is the weapon called? It's not actually piano wire you're using. That you used to strangle people.
It's called wire, isn't it?
I don't know. Anyway. That's
How did you
weapon.
kill a lawyer, though? I don't know any scripted way to kill him.
Oh, his room is a mess because one of the employees, a disgruntled employee, knew that this esteemed guest was coming and went and destroyed the room. So he gets there. Everyone thinks that his room is clean. He's given the key and he's like, excuse me? What is this? And that's why he's downstairs for
Got it. Okay.
Because everyone's cleaning it. So once it's clean, you can disguise yourself as some of the cleaning crew, lead him up to his room, walk around. He's doing a spot check, and he's like, "Oh, look, a spot." So you have to go get him up and clean it. and you keep looking around, and finally you'll get to a room where there's no one else except for his bodyguard. So I took out his bodyguard real quick, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And then I just punched him in the face.
Yes.
That's it.
The classic Hitman move.
Yeah.
Just a...
Yeah, because most people are weak and obnoxious, like this lawyer guy.
Most people are weak and obnoxious. Tyler Barrett.
I'm sorry I said that.
It's just... Wow.
What do you think about the story so far?
I think it's very intentionally just kind of there.
Okay, cool. That's that's what I think.
I like that it's just a bunch of elite, powerful people getting screwed over. I do like that. Just
sure.
I just like stories
There's
about that.
There's nothing else there, though.
Yeah, of course, and I think that's what Hitman 3 brings. That is kind of controversial for some people. I believe it's a little bit more. Will sacrifice time and repeatability for narrative at a lot of times, and some people are a little bit upset about that, but a lot of people are happy to see it back. So
okay, yeah, because the other Hitman games were like much more focused on a single player narrative structure, right?
Yeah, the classic. The thing that made them special was was just the unique gameplay.
Has IO been making Hitman since
the beginning?
Its inception?
I believe so.
Okay,
yeah. Pretty sure.
Well,
they made the movie too. I'm just kidding.
Which we will be visiting.
Yes, very excited.
We are going to watch Hitman and Hitman Agent 47. That's a good title. The name of the character.
Twice.
Yeah, we'll definitely be getting around to that. But I'm happy we're playing it. I'm happy we're going to start putting a little more focus on it, because I would like to play things 3 to 5 times. But I
me too.
Don't. That's about it. That's all
a
I
wrap.
got, man.
Yeah, man. Me too.
Well, thank you all for joining us.
Yes.
We're going to be here next week. We packing these episodes in pretty tight because of the delay there. But we're not going to sacrifice any more time because we've got something big coming up.
Yes.
And we can't afford to sacrifice any more time. So join us next week for Majora's Mask and Sexy Brutale.
Time loop games, people.
Yeah, after playing
Outer
Wilds, we were like, let's play some more time loop games. Those are fun. So we're gonna play those, and I'm very excited to finally play both of them. I played Majora's Mask as a kid. I don't know why I keep moving this. I just do it. Just move it around.
Makes you look professional. You keep doing it. You look cool.
I played Majora's Mask as a kid, but I was a dumb kid and couldn't play video games very well, like now. And I stopped. I don't think I could get through the first dungeon. So we're finally going through that. You've never played it, right?
No, I've started it and gotten through the first day like 3 times maybe. So this is and stopped just for the last time I was like going to play Majora's Mask, but I had booted up Fire Emblem Awakening at the same time. That was a mistake.
Yeah,
because I played that twice.
Fire Emblem, yeah, I think I played through it 1.5 times. I played through it halfway and then restarted to play through it again now that I understood the mechanics better, because I was allowing permadeath to have
take
its
its
way.
Course. I feel like Fire Emblem's best with just like a reset or 2. Sometimes
I did occasionally when something took me way by surprise. Like, okay, you just wiped out 7 people on. You can't even have 7 people, but the point is, you wiped out more than half my team in a turn. I was not expecting this. I know what I'm getting into. I'll restart.
Sure.
It was very rare, but I think I did it maybe 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, but that's why I haven't finished Majora's Mask, is because I started that. So at least from the last time I went to play it. So this time, honestly, I got to that point, and with the Icepocalypse, I actually got through the first 2 dungeons, just breezed through them. It's the most addicting Zelda game I've played, excluding Breath of the Wild.
I kind of want to talk about the beginning right now, but we're not. We will.
We shall abstain.
Yes, and do join us on Discord. You can get there through Patreon. The $10 $2 tier.
We're not that cool.
Correct. We're not cool at all.
Period.
But still, I hope you enjoy our conversations. I hope you see them as engaging, and
we want to have you there.
Yes, we definitely want to have you there, sharing games with us. You talked about that guy that shared Tsushima with you. That's great.
Yeah.
I had not heard that take before, so we want to hear your take on games. Share them with us.
Change your minds.
Yeah, and tell us about your favorite Hitman kills, because we'll be
Yes.
doing this for the rest of the year.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and give us a like and a subscribe here on YouTube if that's where you are consuming our content. Do have a great week.
Yeah, thanks, guys.